Good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Wednesday, July 20th, 2022. It's 8 p.m. and we are live and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. And this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but our LGBTQ plus community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 36 years of LGBTQ plus experience, and our television, news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's welcome anchor Paul Thomas. He is currently the chairman of the LGBTQ plus advisory committee of the City of Miami Beach, a board member of Miami Beach Pride, on the board of trustees for the Point Foundation and the endorsement committee for SAVE. He has over 30 years of experience in the healthcare and education fields, specializing in AIDS, HIV treatments, as well as an activist advocate for marginalized communities. Locally, he works with many of our nonprofits and FQHCs, providing a wide range of services. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Al. Happy to be here. Let's welcome anchor Glen Weinzimer.
Nicely done.
Glen is the founder of the Smart Ride, an annual 2-day, 165-mile bicycle ride from Miami to Key West. The Smart Ride has raised and returned over $13.9 million to AIDS HIV service organizations across Florida in the last 18 years. What makes Smart Ride unique is that 100% of every dollar raised by its participants are guaranteed to go back to direct services, education, and care. Glen also owns Bona Italian restaurant in the heart of Wilton Manors. Bona Italian holds weekly Give Back Mondays, with 10% of all proceeds returned to local charities. In the past 4.5 years, Bona has raised almost $50,000 to help local organizations. Welcome, Glen.
Thank you. And Paul, you probably don't know this, but I talked to one of your cohorts at SAVE today about being involved in the Smart Ride, which is coming up very shortly. We're trying to do as much as we can to involve this year community and show that community needs to show up for everything. That this last year, all the things that we've seen happen in our state, particularly between the Don't Say Gay bill, the anti-trans bill, what happened with Disney, and then what happened on the Supreme Court level, means our community needs to show up everywhere to show our face and know that our voices count.
That's excellent.
I agree.
So
I
happy to
agree.
hear that.
Thanks. So to get back to the show, let's welcome anchor J.D. Danner. J.D. is a South Florida-based songwriter, performing artist. She performs locally and nationally at festivals and music venues. Her style is described as Joan Jett meets Johnny Cash. She hosted her own internet talk show called That's Life from 2007 to 2010. During the quarantine, she revamped that show into a podcast called The Rainbow Remix, bringing on LGBTQ plus community game changers. JD co-hosts this podcast with Denise Warner, who is in London. Currently, JD is working on a biopic concert about her story through her original music, which she plans to take nationally. Life in a Song. The J.D. Danner story will debut on October 14th at Arts Garage in Delray Beach. Welcome, J.D.
Thank you, Glenn. I want to say I love your restaurant. Eaten there many times. It's awesome.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm excited about that show coming up. It's the first time I'm getting to play my original music and actually tell my story in a show. So,
Yeah. And your first appearance as anchor at Queer News Tonight. Welcome.
yes,
Yeah,
thank
welcome.
you. I'm
Happy to
so
have you
happy
here.
to be here. Excited. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines for Wednesday, July 20th.
Well, let's begin by queering up LGBTQ plus civil rights. Congress finally allows Clarence Thomas to have his interracial marriage. Oh, gay people get it too.
A final vote now on the marriage equality bill known as the Respect for Marriage Act. It codifies the right to marry regardless of sexual orientation. It also repeals the Defense of Marriage Act and ensures the legality of same-sex and interracial marriages. The bill is supported by the White House, a simple majority needed for passage.
Yeas are 267, and the nays are 157. The bill is passed.
Well, spurred by the opinion written by Justice Clarence Thomas after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, the U.S. House of Representatives finally voted on the Respect for Marriage Act, first proposed in 2009. The act repeals President Clinton's Defense of Marriage Act and requires the federal government to recognize any marriage that would be recognized in one of the U.S. states. While states will still be able to legally ban marriages based on their own laws, including the marriages protected by Loving v. Virginia, as long as at least one state still has legal marriages, the federal government must offer equal protections and benefits for the purposes of immigration, taxes, or similar. The Respect for Marriage Act passed the House with a 267 to 157 vote, with all Democrats and 47 Republicans voting in favor for it. Many experts still expect the bill to stall in the Senate, where 10 of the 50 Republicans will have to vote in the affirmative in order for the bill to pass. Big news? Not big news.
It's mixed news. You know, I think this should have been done a long time ago before it became critical. This goes back to even Roe versus Wade, where they could have codified it in law, and then it ended up having to go back to the Supreme Court. And there's all those antiquated laws became, I can't remember what the term was, reenacted. So if lynching was on the books, and now that the court said it's okay, in essence, that's not truly related.
Zombie laws.
Zombie laws.
That they
Thank
get
you.
re-implemented. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that many Republicans on the
Were you
House side.
surprised? 47? Did that surprise you? That
No,
number?
because they weren't going to win anyway. So they spoke their piece, and there's no repercussions.
Yeah.
At least in my mind. The Senate side is a different story.
There's some of these things, you know, we really have to move into 2022 with some things. One thing is language, right? When you talk about an interracial marriage, it's like, are we still using that term race when it's not real and it's a social construct? There's really no such thing as an interracial marriage, right? We're all the same race. All the human beings are
It
from the
would be
same
better,
race.
Yeah,
for clarity,
yeah,
it would be
good
better to
point.
say a black and white marriage.
I don't know
How
what
would it
they
be
would say.
defined?
How would they want to define it? But the way that they're defining it isn't correct, right? We're all from
Yeah.
the same race, and
That's
now
a
if they
good
want to
point.
continue to keep separating us somehow,
So it's
Right.
just
then
marriage.
then you can say maybe cultural differences or cultural separation, or
Right.
I don't know what you want to say, but I think that we get caught up in these terms that aren't true, and then they start to legislate behind things that aren't even true.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
let's stop doing that. Like when I think about gay marriage, I remember back in the 80s when all of the gay guys that couldn't get into the hospital to see their partners who were dying, they couldn't make medical decisions, their taxes, and that's why gay people wanted to get married. Right? They didn't want to get married because they wanted to stand under God or whatever they say and like make this. It was like, no, because we need the same legal rights as everyone else, right?
I wanted
So
to be
that
under
we
the
can-
chuppah.
or the, and so I think we need to get up to speed with a lot of these
I want to
things,
ask you
know?
specifically on the reference that we kind of tongue-in-cheek even say in the headline of reporting this news about Clarence Thomas. He shoots the cannon across the gay bow of saying, oh, we're going to revisit this.
Yeah.
And likely a 5-4 decision in 2015 could become 5-4 in the difference, assuming that we keep Roberts.
Right.
And if we don't keep Roberts, it's going to be 6-3. Thomas, understanding what you're saying about interracial marriage being an incorrect term, but the Supreme Court, that's what they called it in 1967, and assuming that you follow that trend of the way they defined it, that right was not assessed to people of color until 1967. What do you think is going on with the Clarence Thomas to challenge gay marriage, even sodomy laws? I know you don't speak for all black people or people of color, but what do you suspect is going on for him?
I think what I see happening is the Supreme Court and some originalists, some people who went to school for far too long and they've had lots of debates about things that really aren't that important, and they should stay in educational settings, right? To debate,
Intellectual.
right? Have taken these things to heart, and so they're being very literal about things, right? Like the word is not in the Constitution, and so we shouldn't operate that way. Leaving things, pushing things to Congress, like you talked about with Roe versus Wade, the Congress has the power to codify that, right? Pushing things back to states, hoping that states will just do the right thing on their own without having this huge hand kind of making these decisions, right? The only problem is that document was written back in the 1700s. I personally don't care what these guys thought about in the 1700s.
But let's come back to my question. He was afforded voting rights in constitutional interpretation by the Supreme Court, being a person of color.
Right.
He was afforded the right in 1967 by the Supreme Court to marry a person that was not identified as a person of color.
Right.
So what's going through his mind of what he wants to revisit?
Well, that's what I mean. When you sit in those settings and you have these discussions, these intellectual discussions about what is the Constitution, and when you get into these originalist debates about what we should be doing as a Supreme Court and what we really shouldn't be doing as a Supreme Court, it gets far away from common sense.
It
gets far away from common sense.
You just think it's basically being ridiculous academic.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I think this is important. He did us a huge favor by putting out his agenda.
Yeah.
Because it has mobilized the world or our country like I don't think anyone else could have done.
Yeah.
And that warning that I'm coming after you is basically what he said. Then puts everyone else on guard that we need to show up, and we need to show up in November.
To the point that you just made, why did we need a Clarence Thomas to wake the LGBTQ community of what's been going on for years now?
Well, we've had this conversation before, like who's paying attention? And what will it take to get people to pay attention? What is that tipping point? What is that thing? And in this case, it seems to have resonated. We hope. We'll see what happens in November.
JD, I'm curious for you. Do you think the lesbians of America, the women in our communities, do they think any different than gay men on this news and the issues related to marriage and Justice Thomas's shot across the bow? Do you think the community, are women right there along with us in the same attitude as gay men, or are there any differences at all?
I think we're people, we all want the same thing. We all want to be able to have those same rights. And I am surprised they would be revisiting this again too now. And
that's
and I think women, we tend to be coupled up sooner and in that role anyway sooner, but to be part of that, of the whole legality of being in a marriage situation and the marriage constitution, I think we're all the same, on the same page with that. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Senate a moment. So we need 10 votes. So far, only Susan Collins from Maine has said, I'm in favor of this. So right now it's 51-49, and we have the negotiation time. Very likely there are going to be others. Your gut is, are we going to get to 10?
It really depends on what people, just as you were talking about, what people in the states do. If people, the average person in the state, starts speaking up, and that person that sits in Congress realizes, I'm going to lose my next election unless I vote a certain way, because that's what they're paying attention to. They're watching Twitter like a hawk. And if all of a sudden they have 250,000 people writing, we're voting you out if you don't do this, they're going to make the decision based on their own job security.
Let's make sure.
That's true.
And it allows us, your soundbite allows us to frame this conversation of what's going to happen next. Perhaps a significant portion of LGBTQ South Florida America doesn't understand what you just said. 78% of all Americans support gay marriage.
Right.
This is not even close.
Right.
There is no debate going on here.
Right.
It's not even close. So the question is, in states like Iowa, where Iowa is even higher, I think it's in the mid-80s of support of gay marriage in Iowa, those two senators, how are they going to go, hold on a second, I'm not in favor of this, when 82% of their constituents are in favor of it?
Right.
You think
Well, I think
that's going to be the issue?
Part of it is what they choose to make as their talking point. You know, if they choose to deflect and talk about things that they think their constituency cares about more, that could be the part of their strategy. You know, I don't know what they're going to do. Or they,
at least when it comes to the red side of things, they tend to not be able to speak their mind. At least on the blue side of things, people can have their own minds and personalities. They have to fall in line behind the party. So if the party decides we're going to run for president based on Roe versus Wade and gay marriage, then they're going to have to vote whatever the party tells them to vote.
Who,
Even if it's
That's a
political
good point.
suicide.
what do you
Very
think about
true.
the comments that are going on that the Pelosi-Schumer approach here of the secret time bomb is really genius? Because it forced Congress to come out and say, I'm for this or I'm not for this. This is irrelevant. All other issues, this doesn't violate any state's rights. So we take Clarence Thomas out of the argument. If a state does it, if New York and California say gay marriage is the law and Massachusetts is the law, you just have to recognize those states. But we're not taking it away from anyone else. What do you think about the comments that are going on that that's a genius move? And now in the Senate, right before the midterms, it's going to make these senators, those 49 senators now, come out on the limb to say yes or no. What do y'all think about Pelosi and Schumer? You're complimentary for them?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It's part of the political game, and you have to get people on record, and you have to make them vote, and you have to get it in paper so that you can use it against them in the election, or at least hold them accountable to their words when things come up in the future.
Y'all agree with that?
I
agree with that. I do. And I think that they've got a good platform right now between the abortion, Roe versus Wade, and everything else. I just think that the country is angry because, like you said, 78% of the country agrees that gay marriage should remain legal. Most of the country believes in 90%. Abortion. 90% believes in Roe versus Wade. So they're going against the tide of popular opinion.
And another question I'm curious on your feeling today, because we're really taking a pulse of what's happened. I read a quite an extensive social media post today. Where's Donald Trump? Because if Donald Trump came out today and he said, I'm going to take the time to comment on this, he would say, I'm in favor of this new law for protection of gay marriage. So where is this fervent no, the 150-ish congressional Republicans that voted no? Who's driving and beating that?
Their
That's
donors,
my question,
political, religious political donors. It's a lot of money. They get a lot of money from a lot of religious organizations, and to lose that money would put them in jeopardy of being able to run. So.
Yeah, because
I think it's money.
Yeah, it seems to me very like, why reach back and go back to these? We finally got ahead and had these laws changed and in place. That was my question. Like, why are they reaching back suddenly with the
Wait, are we talking about women's rights now, or
everything?
Settled for 50 years and we're different. Last question before we move on. I'm really curious. I'm curious about the LGBTQ community. If this exact news, if yesterday afternoon we were on the air when this was happening, and it was our lead story yesterday, it's our lead story today. If this exact moment in Congress happened, that vote, that many Republicans to codify gay marriage happened in 2012, it would have been an all-stop conversation in the LGBTQ world, no matter what country on this planet you lived in. We got through it of going, Yeah, okay. What does that say about us? We're not beating our chests. We're not saying we're getting those 9 votes no matter what. We're going to fight to the death over that. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
How come? Why is this not news?
I don't know. It's very frustrating. You know, a lot of us fought
Yes.
for a lot of years to get to where we're at.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's for those that are fighting for everyone else's rights, you kind of wish they would show you the respect back and say, hey, you know, you've been doing this, we support you. But they just seem oblivious. And maybe it's just our community because but I just feel like they're more interested in going out and being on Grindr or going to the clubs or drinking and not as interested in until something's taken away from them.
Right.
They don't even recognize that it's going to hurt them.
Well,
This-
I
That's
think
what
that's
it
a big
is, yeah.
point is that a lot of the younger, we did a good job, right? There's a whole generation that has been raised without having to think about these things.
Exactly.
Right? They don't know what it's like to
Yeah.
not
Any
have them.
responsibility.
Right. They don't know what it's like to not have
Even
it.
having conversations with people come into the restaurant about the community itself, and you say, shouldn't you be more involved? It doesn't really affect me. Well, it does affect you. Like it
Right.
absolutely affects you, and I'm happy to like pull your food away so we can talk about this. It does make a difference, you know, and we take it for a lot of people take it for granted in our community that the rights that we have here in our part of Florida is the same rights people have across the country, and it is not.
Yeah.
And it is not, and it's
Right.
not in the state of Florida. Can we just bring up real quick when you're talking about our community and things going on? I don't know how many people have read, but PrEP has in the state of Florida, in the state of Texas, the same gentleman that wrote the brief to overturn Roe versus Wade already put to the Texas Supreme Court that insurance companies can deny payment of PrEP. Right? So now, when they say this isn't going to affect you, you're going to get HIV.
The conclusion is
Like it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
that's, I think, for me, inside the LGBTQ community. The headline today is, why is this not news for the LGBT?
Right.
Right.
I think that is the real headline. And by the way, I just have to say, and forever, it's one of the reasons why I love Bona, because the owner of Bona will take your food away.
I love that.
Convince
You
you
got
why
the
you should be
power.
paying.
Exactly.
You have the
Exactly.
power. You have the
100%.
food.
Right. Paul, let's talk about some religion.
Okay. Well, let's move to a lighter subject.
I was just going to say, good luck.
Now let's queer up religion. Homophobic sister act as nun freaks out over photoshoot model's kiss. Recently, a photo shoot for Not Yet magazine went viral for all the wrong reasons. While photographic models Serena de Ferrari and Kyshan Wilson in the Quartiere Spagnoli area of Naples, Italy, the production team was approached by a nun. The nun asked if the group had been to Mass that morning, then saw the two models kissing and got upset. She broke the girls up, calling their kiss the devil's work and blaming young people for the spread of COVID-19. On her Instagram stories, Ferrari shared a meme claiming that the nun was fine with the kiss, but instead was upset with the ugly shoes the model had been wearing.
I think Marjorie Green looks really good in white.
Oh, yes, exactly. Two women kissing caused COVID-19. How do you
COVID-19? I don't know. That was a big leap. The maybe younger people in Italy weren't taking it as serious. They had a lot of problems in Italy in the beginning of COVID. Maybe I read the article when you guys sent me the teleprompter, and so I looked it up, and the people from Italy were saying that, or the production team was saying, she's an older lady. She's kind of entrenched in her religious views. Like they're trying to make excuses for because you can't make sense out of the nonsense.
You can't forgive someone because of age and go, it's okay because they're old and they grew up in a different generation.
I know.
Hate is hate.
I do that for you all.
Well, and I do it for you in return, but we have an understanding.
I like
Nuns
that
pay attention to shoes.
I was going to say, I like that the model turned it back on the shoes. And played, it's only a model could. That was the most important part.
Goodness.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
This is where we're at, though. You know, we're at that breaking point, like you said. People are angry. They're not just angry here. They're angry all over. And we're having these altercations where, like, nuns are running into photo shoots now.
Right.
This is crazy.
Yeah, okay. I think it's time that we move on to something else. All right. Now we clear up the USA View. Ricky Martin comments on allegation he had sexual relationship with Nephew. Ricky Martin's lawyer has made a statement about the allegations that the pop superstar had a sexual relationship with his 21-year-old nephew, saying, quote, "Unfortunately, the person who made the claim is struggling with deep mental health challenges. Ricky Martin has, of course, never been and would never be involved in any kind of sexual or romantic relationship with his nephew. The idea is not only untrue, it is disgusting," end quote. Ricky's brother, Eric Martin, recently posted a video on social media that backs up the singer's claims, saying that the nephew has a long history of mental and legal issues. Eric claimed that the nephew is estranged from the family and had hurt other family members in the past. There are also claims that the nephew, Dennis Yadil Sanchez, also allegedly threatened to kill a female co-worker in the past, leading her to get a restraining order against him. Sanchez is the son of Ricky Martin's half-sister, Vanessa Martin.
Well, lots of issues here.
Yeah.
First off, without, obviously, we don't know one way or the other, so there's really not a lot of value of the comment of that. Sexual allocations or accusations are important, and they shouldn't be ever shouted down.
Right.
You should believe until proven. But if there's not going to be an investigation, if he's not going to file charges with the police, then it's just picking up a stone and throwing it from my standpoint. Yeah. The one thing that I think is really interesting in this story, which I ask you all about, is how does he recover repairing this? Because once this is placed in social media, it becomes a viral conversation, even if there is absolutely no truth at all.
That's
How does he recover from this?
I think he can do that. And I think he can do it in a really good way to help other people, at least if he calls me, Ricky.
Wait, did you?
If I was 21 years old, I'm just saying.
No, but really, because if his nephew is suffering from mental and emotional issues, and if there have been legal problems, and if he can talk about this issue and also highlight other areas that we need to highlight and break stigmas down and have conversations around, and he can respond to these accusations in a certain way to teach other people, right? So that it doesn't all have to come to this, breaking up of a whole family.
What do you think about the idea, though, to that observation, that he does that? And let's say he threads that needle perfectly. The number of people that will hear him say that will be 1 to the 100 that read, and it sticks with them. Oh, he sexually abused his nephew.
Right.
He can never get back to those people that are seated with that belief.
It was interesting to me on my social media. I'm part Latino. I have a lot of Latino people on nobody wanted to believe it. They were like, there's got to be, like 3 weeks ago when the whispers started, it was like, this is not something about this isn't right. Like people were already kind of defending him. My biggest worry was just the conversation with the religious right calling us groomers, with them trying to pass laws in Florida. This is not the kind of story that we want as a community out there right now at all.
And I think that his supporters will believe him. Those who love him, I don't think would look at him and if they know anything about his history and having a child and everything that's happened from the time he was on General Hospital, he's got a fan base. The ones that are criticizing probably don't like him to begin with.
Or don't know him. And watch Menudo on Netflix. There's a buyout. Did you see that?
Yes.
That was fantastic.
It was.
And coming from that type of a background, I mean, there was a lot of things going on.
They were meat. They were a product, and they were meat.
Right. And there was a lot of abuse happening. Yeah. And so there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of, I hope it's, like you said, the victims have to be listened to.
Right.
And I hope that there's some type of an investigation and then some.
But I agree with you. I don't think it's going to cripple his career.
I really
don't.
Well, and my observation has nothing to do with his career Or Ricky Martin's going to be fine. Everybody, Ricky Martin's going to be fine.
He's not going to be hungry.
Issue, to me, when they issued the statement, I immediately thought about the movie Notting Hill and Julia Roberts' character about the pictures that will appear when the roommate shows up at the door half naked. You don't understand. These pictures will live forever.
Yeah.
There will never be the opportunity to provide the asterisk explanation. This was a mental issue of somebody that made the accusation that was completely wrong. The vast majority of people will not give that benefit of the doubt. And as a result, the newspaper will live forever. You know, that's the thing I think.
Well, January 6th lives, and some people believe even seeing the pictures that it didn't happen.
Right.
It could stay in the headlines. Something was on the other day about that, where forever they were, I watched a biography about a guy who had been a porn star. And even though he went into mainstream work, for a long time, became very successful, was in Carnegie Hall, and all the time in the newspaper, they called him former porn star. So it could end up being something like that, where Ricky Martin could be, you know, formally accused of for a
Martha
long
Stewart
time.
came back.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not being sarcastic. I mean,
you could always
people
call
come
Snoop
back.
Dogg.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, we're now, we're
3 hours into the show.
right.
Let's queer up politics. Gay Oklahoma mayor resigns due to bullying and concerns for his safety. The Village, Oklahoma is losing its gay mayor, Adam Graham, as Mayor Adam Graham tendered his resignation this week. On his Twitter, he posted his resignation letter with the caption, quote, "For almost 5 years, I've proudly served the village as council member and mayor. It's been an honor to serve, and it's been my great privilege to break boundaries. I no longer feel safe to serve my capacity here. It's with a heavy heart that I tender my resignation," end quote. He has received repeated harassment that he says comes from an incident where he confronted police officers from neighboring Nichols Hill for pulling over people in his city outside of their jurisdiction.
It's a disappointing story of bullying. And we think about Trevor Project's words about children being bullied. This is a grown man leading a city as mayor, and this story is about bullying. What do you think?
I thought it was horrible that it comes to a point where he's done so much amazing work and he's driven to resign because he's fearing for his own safety.
It doesn't reflect on Oklahoma broadly very well, does it?
No. And it doesn't seem that his local community is bullying him. It appears this is all coming from the neighboring communities that have come out after him. At least that's what I got out of it. I don't think he's disliked by his community. He's been a councilman and now a mayor. And it is heartbreaking to see that in a smaller town like that, I'm sure he doesn't have the same kind of security that they would in a bigger city, where if something was threatened against Dean Trentellis, the police would probably sit outside of his place. You know, I don't know what they're doing there, that he's, he can't walk his dog. There are things that he's just trying to live in a small city as a small mayor.
I wonder, right? I don't know anything about Oklahoma, but you have to imagine that if he's going to resign from mayor because of safety, I can only imagine. I mean, is that one of those open carry states? Is everybody walking around with a gun out there?
Well, we don't know in a specific city.
I mean, that's a lot, right? To be that afraid for your personal safety that you walk away from your position.
The one thing that I'm curious about this story, will this aid his career, his political career? I couldn't do this, and there is going to be much support for him, and that it'll lead to something bigger than this likely very small town.
Depends on how he handles it. I really believe that. Like, if he just wants out because he's not mature enough to handle that kind of pressure, he may not be able to go forward. If he is strong enough and he has a yearning to go further, then he can come back out again. But it sounds like this is very personal to him.
Okay. Well, next, let's queer up entertainment. Here are the gay stars of M. Night Shyamalan's horror movie, Knock at the Cabin. The newest movie in production by film producer M. Night Shyamalan, Knock at the Cabin, has been under has been held under pretty tight wraps. Back in March, it was revealed that the openly gay actors Ben Aldridge and Jonathan Groff would be starring in the film. This weekend, it was revealed that the film is based on The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. This revelation means that Aldridge and Groff will most likely be playing the gay lovers of Andrew and Eric from the horror story. In the novel, Andrew and Eric take their adopted daughter to a remote cabin in New Hampshire for a vacation. 4 strangers break in and hold them captive and will only let them free if one of the family members is killed by the other 2. Exciting to me because, of course, we're titillated by having the 2 gay guys be the principal character. But M. Night Shyamalan, to me, is genius. I have watched every second of everything that he has ever filmed. He is so great.
Nothing good ever comes out of hanging out in the woods in a cabin.
In a cabin, right?
New Hampshire. Yeah,
Right.
no, thank you. And you paved road in front of me.
Y'all fans of M. Night Shyamalan?
I'm not, but I'm fascinated by this. And those 2, woof.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. I mean, they're definitely going to get, I'd watch a horror movie if they're in it.
I just tell you, I always think about M. Night Shyamalan when I'm with you. Because I always think of, I see dead people.
Oh, right.
And I protect you from them. I push them away.
He's really talented, but I think it's great with all the things going on in the world right now that there's going to be he's a major player.
Yeah.
This movie is going to be shown all over the globe.
Yeah.
And it's going to have 2 gay stars,
Yeah.
right? And bringing up that conversation in places that don't want to have that conversation.
And I think it's interesting that with all the pushback we're getting against potentially gay marriage and everything else, that from the media standpoint and other things, we're pushing forward, we're continuing to do these things while we can, if you will, and we're putting it out there, whether it be books that are 2 gay lovers or whether here in a drama horror movie. You know, I think that there is this counterbalance, like we're not just shying away and withering because of threat.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Glenn,
I'm up next.
Yeah.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
Hi, I'm Dean Trantalis, the mayor of the city of Fort Lauderdale. They say the gayest place on planet Earth, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
It looks like his mate.
Well, that is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of a very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories, bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of the Hotspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Paul Thomas, Glen Weinzimer, and J.D. Danner, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now.